All right, what's up, everybody? We're here in the podcast. We're introducing vertical living, and mind introducing yourself, Max?
Hi, well, I'm Vertical Living, aka Max, or Max, aka Vertical Living. I'm a 22-year-old guy now living back in the UK that makes videos about climbing and running now. I guess I'm expanding slightly. I'd say like outdoor sports and lifestyle would probably be like the kind of how I would capture my channel vibe, or at least I hope it comes across that way. Who knows? But yeah, no, I'm happy to be here. I'm excited.
Awesome. We're glad to have you. And so my first question for you is basically, so where are you from? And tell us a little bit more about yourself. Just like, who is Max?
Who is Max?
Exactly.
So I'm from the UK. Both my parents are Polish. So I was born in the UK, and then I grew up in Poland for a bit, and then moved back to the UK when I was about 10. And then I stayed here until I was 17, like finished high school, or you guys call high school. And then I took a year off and went to Austria and lived in Austria and Germany for a year. And then I did my bachelor's in the Netherlands. And then I went to the US for 6 months as part of my bachelor's. And then, yeah, I'm kind of been around a bit, basically, is how I would describe myself. A little bit of a mongrel. Like, I wouldn't say that I had like a secure living arrangement for the last 5 years. And I just moved back to the UK after finishing my degree, and then I'm going to start my law degree from October of this year.
Wow.
So it's been like a roller coaster ride for the last 5 to 6 years. Yeah, it's been interesting. It's been interesting, for sure. So
That's awesome. Yeah. So you're a law student, you said?
Yeah, I will be from October. I don't want to call myself a law student yet. Thank you very much. But like, yeah, I don't know what I've gotten myself into, so we'll find out. I'm like excited and nervous at the same time. You know, that good nervous.
Yeah. Yeah, I can feel that. Definitely, you don't know what's ahead of you exactly, and that's like what's fun. That's what keeps on making life worth living, right?
Exactly. I also feel like it's a major contradiction between the lifestyle that I kind of lead at the moment with all the climbing and the running and everything else, and then like being a law student, because the law is just kind of a really dedicated, time intensive, some people would say like square, you got to be a little bit of a square to thrive in that profession, and I do really well with kind of not being that. So it's going to be really interesting, and I think something's going to have to give eventually, but you know, I'll cross that bridge when I get there, for sure.
Totally. For sure. And what made you follow law, for example? Do you have like a family member, relative in that particular field?
Yeah, my father.
I gotcha.
Yeah, I wouldn't say, neither of my parents are particularly bothered as to what I do, as long as I do something. And you know, I find my own path, and you know, I can sustain myself and support myself. So they're very supportive in that sense, but it's always been something that I've been intrigued with since I was about 13 or 14. So I'm kind of, it took me 7 years to essentially commit to that idea. So
wow.
Yeah, it's not like I kind of decided like one evening I was like, I'm going to be a lawyer. It was a bit more thoughtful than that. Thankfully, I couldn't deal with the student debt otherwise.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
So I want to get into why we're here, and that is pretty much rock climbing, or what started your channel in general. So what got you into climbing specifically?
What got me into climbing? I used to be a competitive swimmer.
Okay.
Pretty much most of my life. I'm from 9 until 18, and then I went to uni. I got really ill when I was 17 or 18, and then I pretty much had to stop all sport, and just like life kind of went on hold. And then I went to uni, and I tried to pick up swimming again and water polo and everything else. And then I injured myself, and then my housemate at the time, who was this German dude, he was like, "Dude, why don't you just come climbing with me sometime?" And I was like, okay, you know what? This is a time for firsts. I'm at university. Like, this is the whole point. Got to try new things. And he took me for one session in November of 2015, and then that was that. Like I went out the next day, I bought myself some climbing shoes and a climbing gym membership, and I was like, this is what I want to do. And then it was probably the best decision I've made in the last, multiple years. As in, it introduced to me a lot of really, really cool opportunities that I don't think I would have had otherwise. So yeah, I kind of just went with it, and then yeah, that's why I'm here now, I guess. Like a lot of things have stemmed from that one decision.
Yeah, that's funny. That one activity changed your life.
Yeah, no, seriously, it's crazy. Like I just went one time, and then it was like YouTube, and then I met a load of people in the States, and then I made friends that I'm still in contact with like years later. And then moving back to the UK, there's quite a strong climbing scene in London, so that's kind of a major inroad. I don't actually know where you guys live specifically, but in like major cities, it's
there's places like gyms and stuff for people do rock climbing here in California. So it's not as big of a thing. I feel like I don't know. At least I haven't heard too much about it, but there are places where you can do it.
Yeah, it's pretty average in our community. Go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was just gonna say it's like deceptively hard to meet people in big cities, and climbing is like a really good kind of friendly community to like slip into. As like deceptive as that sounds, like everyone's quite friendly.
I can see that.
It was a good inroad. Where are you guys from in California? I love California. I know California's huge.
So we're in Central California around Fresno. And it's nice. Where I live is only about maybe a 45-minute drive from Yosemite.
I'm so jealous.
That's what I get that a lot, yeah.
Yeah, Yosemite is potentially my favorite national park.
Potentially.
A lot of people.
Potentially. I like Zion. I really like Zion. I mean, Utah in general is just like really pretty. It's like a weird state, though.
Yeah, I like Utah. The Salt Lake's overrated. I'm just saying.
Salt Lake is overrated. People don't realize that. Everyone thinks it's really cool. It's not.
Once you go there, it's the worst place in the world.
I don't know about that, but
worst place is pretty bold. I've been to some weird places in Alabama. So
I can see that. Yeah, a lot of dead space.
Yeah, but I actually had a question that I wanted to get into about rock climbing. I've been very curious about this. So explain to me the difficulty rankings when you're doing rock climbing. Like, for example, I saw one where it's a 7A, and it looked pretty challenging. So what does that mean? What does 7A mean? How does the ranking system work?
Oh man, this is like the biggest debate in rock climbing. It's like the grading scale.
Opening can of worms here.
I'm gonna try and like simplify it as much as possible. So basically, the whole idea behind the grading is that it's supposed to rank the difficulty of the climb, and there are like two systems. The Americans use one system, and the Europeans use another. So the 7A is the European system. You may occasionally see V and then a number, so like V1, V2, V3. That's the American Waco grade system. The whole idea is that it's consensus graded. So, in theory, it's a great principle. One person will climb it, and they'll propose a difficulty grade, and then a bunch of other people will climb it, and they'll either agree or disagree with the grade that was given, and then over time, you'll reach a consensus for the climb, which in theory sounds amazing, and it sounds like it will work. In reality, climbing is quite an individual sport anyway. People's body shapes are different, and flexibility and strengths and weaknesses, etc. So these grades get sprayed around a lot, and it's really hard because like a 7A in one area might be very different to a 7A in a different area, even though they're supposed to represent the same difficulty climb. The scale is always changing as well. So up until kind of the 50s or 60s, the hardest grade you could climb was 6A, and now it's 9A, and each grade, so 7A to 7A plus to 7B, is kind of logarithmic. So it's not an equal effort to up the grade. It just gets harder and harder and harder. So they say that a lot of people can kind of go from 6A to 7A in a year, but to go from 7A to 8A may take 5 years. And then most people will never get above 8A to be like ever. It's a very small number of, a small percentage of climbers will ever climb that hard. But it's interesting because a lot of people focus on the grades and forget to enjoy the actual climbing bit, and vice versa, where people just don't care about grades and just go out and have fun. So it kind of, I found the Americans were more like that actually. There's a lot of recreational rock climbers in the States. People that just go out on the weekends and go have fun with their buds and stuff, and like that's awesome. And then there's like a whole different scene where everyone's uber competitive and they need to go like crush rock and
So where do you fall into that? Are you more of recreational, or are you more like competitive? Like you want to climb the hardest ones?
I am an overly competitive person. I'm not like, I'm really bad actually. I'm very competitive. I think climbing is great though in the sense that it completely checks your ego, because it just takes time. Like you can't really rush. There's so many things that need to develop. Like any sport, you need to develop certain techniques and mindsets, and you need to get stronger in certain ways, and it's very humbling to kind of just relinquish yourself to the whole process of climbing and just enjoying it for what it is. And you see a lot of kids burn out really quickly because they don't climb as hard as they want to, and then kind of get frustrated with it and give up on the sport. But I have to say, like, some of my favorite memories from rock climbing are just going out with friends. We drove from Flagstaff to Maple Canyon in Utah for literally a 2-day trip. I don't know, that's a 12-hour drive. I just don't understand why we bothered. But it was like the greatest 2 days of my life. I'm in the middle of nowhere, had no cell service. And we just climbed for 2 days, like 3 of us. And that's great. We weren't worrying about grades or anything. It was just about being outside with friends. And I think that's like a really important thing to kind of remember. Like if you're not having fun, then there's no point doing it. Like I'm a big advocate of that. And but I am competitive I'm just way too competitive for my own good. It's
Some would say that's like a flaw, but I say that's like a strength, honestly. Competitiveness is like really going to get you to that next level. If that's even like what you're looking for, you might just fall into that next level without even knowing it, with like how competitive you sound. So that's really cool.
It's I think the main thing about being competitive is that it ends up separating the people when you've got to train, or you kind of devoting yourself to something, and you need to be going to the gym, or you need to be doing a certain exercise and you're really not in the mood to be doing it, but you should. The competitive people will be the ones that go and do it anyway. And I think I definitely fall into that trap. Like I'm taking a bit of a break from climbing at the moment, because I ended up climbing one of my projects literally this weekend, and it was literally a 4-month block of climbing 4 days a week, doing the most boring things I've ever done, just running around in circles on a climbing wall. And like I climbed with some kids at the gym, and they're like, "Oh, why are you doing it if you're not having fun? You're yada yada yada." You're like, "Well, because I want to climb hard." I don't have the time anymore to sit around for 5 hours a day in the climbing gym and just eat pizza and chill out. Like those days are gone.
Unfortunately, what's like the most difficult grade you've ever done? I kind of want to get away from these questions, but I'm just like curious about like
hardest grade. Do you want in terms of American, it's V8 or 7B, and then sports climbing it's 7B plus or 512C for the Americans that will evidently end up watching this or listening to this. But yeah, it's just one of those things that's constantly in flux. So like I'm chasing 8A, sport and bouldering grades. So we'll see how that ends up. I reckon another couple of years and may get there. Who knows? You gotta believe though, otherwise.
It's so crazy that like it's just so funny. Like I know it's the difficulty you said is so exponential, but it's just so funny that you say, "Oh, it's gonna take me years to go from a 7 to an 8." Like I understand there's so much work that goes into it, but that's just so crazy to me to think like for one number it takes like 3 years worth of like dedication to it. That's insane.
Oh, it's crazy. Like people don't really. It's disgusting. Like everyone wants to rush it, but there's no rush. It's mainly because just finger strength. Like if you go on to Instagram after this and just type in like climbing pictures of Instagram or whatever, and just like scroll down and find some super strong guys. Like the finger strength that they possess is just disgusting. Like there's no other way of really describing it. And it is really just how hard can you pull on how small of a hold. And that's really what it comes down to at those high grades. And you can't really rush that because you just end up destroying your hands.
Yeah.
So you got to take it slow. So I'm like I'll be like perfectly content with climbing 1 8A in my whole entire life. And I say that now, and I probably won't be afterwards. But
Yeah.
like, if I get there, I'll be happy, and I'll be content for about 20 minutes, and then I'll
try to enjoy it when it happens, though.
Yeah, no, that's the main thing. But that's the beauty of the sport, is that there's always something else to climb. Like, it really is, for most people, it's an infinite source of entertainment and challenge. And I think that's what makes it very addictive. Like, you'll never finish it. It's never finished. It's not like, it's not like in football where you win the Super Bowl and you've kind of done it then. That's it. Like, what's more to do except win more Super Bowls? You got to just keep, like, rock climbing just gets harder and harder and harder. Like, that's all there is. It's great. It's
I never would have thought of it, like, from that kind of perspective, honestly. Like, you see it and it just seems pretty explanatory. Like, whenever you watch rock climbing videos, it seems like that's all there is to it, but it seems like years and years of practice, and it becomes a lifestyle in a way.
Yeah, it's definitely a lifestyle sport. There is a certain element of it's like sacrifice, and you just kind of become a little bit more aware, and then everyone wants to be a dirtbagger and live out of a van with 5 dogs, and like everyone goes through that phase, and like, oh man, I want to go travel across America in my Sprinter. Like, everyone goes through that phase. It's addictive because there's just so much to see and so much to do, and the community is so friendly and supportive that it really is kind of like, it's definitely counterculture, or it was at least counterculture sports. That's how it kind of originally started, especially in Yosemite. There's a really good documentary called Valley Uprising that I would definitely recommend. I made my parents watch it because they don't really get the climbing thing. And I was like, if you're going to understand anything about climbing, you need to watch this documentary. It's on Netflix. It's awesome. Like, it explains the whole counterculture vibe and like where we are now because of it. And I love it personally. I've watched it like 12 times.
I'll have to check it out then. Valley Uprising.
Definitely should.
Definitely had to make a little note of it. But something I want to get back to is talk about your YouTube channel. So you've only been climbing for about 3 years now, and like you said, it's already become a lifestyle for you. So what motivated you to do a channel focused around starting with like rock climbing? Just like, when did you get into it? Like a year after you started rock climbing?
Yeah, it was actually after I got back from the States. So I was out in the States for 6 months, and I had all these really cool experiences with some amazing people. And I used to do a lot more kind of climbing photography and adventure photography.
Nice.
And then I got back and I was going through all these photos, and I was like, man, like, I really wish I had some videos, because there was just so many good memories that I wish that I'd captured on video. Because it's just like things that people say and their emotions, and you get a better vibe from a video, I guess. And then I kind of sat there and I was like, well, I've got a bit of time to kill. Like, my class schedule isn't too bad. So I was like, dude, I just spoke to my other friend called Maxime, and I was like, dude, I think I'm going to start a YouTube channel. And I borrowed my sister's camera, and the first 5 episodes or something were filmed on like some really small Sony thing with no mic, and it was just a mess. And and that was it. And people at the gym were like, lol, what are you doing? Like, why are you filming yourself at the gym? And I was like, I don't know, just trying to have some fun. Yeah. Like, that's the whole point. Like, and it just grew. It just grew a little bit. It grew a little bit, and then I don't know. I just kind of kept going with it. And I feel like it's as terrible as this is gonna sound, and I don't mean it in a negative way. Like, I feel like I have to make videos now. Like, I feel like I enjoy them. The community seems to be growing a little bit more. I enjoy showing people like climbers and climbing and what it is to be part of that scene. So it's definitely developing. There are more and more climbing channels now than there were a year ago. There was only one major channel when I started called Eric Carlson Bouldering, and he's kind of the OG for the scene, and he's got maybe, I don't know, 80,000 subs or something.
Oh wow.
Which isn't actually that much for YouTube, but for considering how small climbing is as a niche, it's like really big. It's really big for our niche. And then there's one in London called Bouldering Bobat, who I actually did a video. We did a collab together.
Oh, nice.
A while back. Yeah, once that video went out, I gained about 300 subs in a month.
A month?
I didn't understand what was going. Yeah, no, that was crazy. I only had about 400 subs in November. So
wow, so you grew pretty fast then. Wow.
Yeah,
that's what I was gonna ask. So you just blew up kind of.
So I had 400 in November, and then by January I had 1,000, and then I took some time off because I kind of got a bit unwell and moving back from university and stuff, and then it's kind of picking up again since moving back to London. Like there's a bigger scene here because the Netherlands is quite small, so it was kind of finite essentially. But yeah, no, that's why I started the channel, and then I like doing outdoor sports and kind of challenging myself. So then there was this, I got asked about running an ultra marathon. So I was like, sure, because that doesn't sound ridiculously painful. And so it's kind of grown into climbing and the running. And I thought about splitting the channel into two, but I didn't really want to divide my viewer base this early on.
Yeah. Smart.
And I asked the community in a live stream. I was like, guys, I'm thinking about producing some running content alongside like the climbing reviews and the the normal videos and stuff. And 95% of people were like, yeah, you do you, man, like it's your channel. We may not necessarily watch it, but we're not going to unsub from you. So nice. There does seem to be I essentially have two separate communities now running on my channel. The ones that watch the climbing and the ones that watch the running, and there's occasionally a little bit of a crossover. But it's kind of cool how that's developed, and people have seemed to be kind of supportive of the whole pursuit. So big up YouTube community.
That's pretty funny. Can you tell who is who whenever you see comments on your videos? Like, oh yeah, this is a running fan, or oh yeah, this is strictly like a rock climbing fan.
Seriously, because I just see the names crop up on certain videos, and I'm like, you don't watch any of the climbing ones, but you always comment on the running ones, so thank you very much.
Yeah,
that's so funny. Just split down the middle. That's cool.
Yes.
Maybe once you get more developed with both of your channel, then you could maybe branch off and do just a strictly running channel. So in the future that'd be cool. But now you said it's a little early, and I totally agree.
Yeah, it is. It's just I have a very devoted fan base that I really truly appreciate. They're awesome, and I just didn't want to divide it so early on, and I just didn't like the idea of because really the channel kind of started about me and my friends and climbing and what we get up to. I don't want to say it was a vlog, but it basically is a vlog. Yeah. And then I thought, well, I mean, the channel's called Vertical Living. It's not vertical climbing or vertical whatever. It's really just about things that I do in the vertical. So I backcountry ski, I trail run, I climb, I pretty much do anything that's outdoorsy. I've highlined and stuff. So I just thought it still fits into what I want my channel to be. So yeah, we'll have to see how it goes later on. I mean, obviously, never say never. But I'm proud. I'm happy with the fact that the community has stuck by through all of that. So, I can't really ask for that much more, I guess. Apart from subscribe, guys.
No, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, cool. And I was kind of wondering too, when you started up the channel, because it is something that you kind of just from the original videos, your way back wins, and we'll talk about it with your drone stuff, to when you started doing the climbing stuff. What was some of the challenges that you faced when you were starting out your channel?
The challenges that I faced?
Yeah, or was there none? Was it all positive? That could be cool too.
No, dude. Audio is the biggest challenge in the world, because climbing gyms love blasting music at the gym, which I totally get. And I still don't have that dialed. I still don't understand what I'm doing with my mic on my camera. And it's just so hard to clean up audio and post, and it's a really hard balance between too much chatting in the videos and not enough climbing, and too much climbing to the point where no one can relate to who's climbing. And I think when I was climbing back in the Netherlands, the original videos, it was definitely a lot more me and my friends. And I was in a lot more of the videos back then. But if you've noticed any of the recent ones, I'm hardly in them anymore. And that's partly because, one, I was training for the project that I sent over the weekend, and then it's partly because life gets in the way. I was working basically full time, and when I get to the gym in the evenings, I've got maybe 2 hours to train, and it's I could kind of climb, kind of film, and then I always choose climbing over filming, because I am a climber, not a YouTuber. I just YouTube is always going to be secondary to my climbing. And
makes sense, yeah.
And then I think the major challenge was just trying to build up like get people to film with. Like that was always really difficult. Some people don't like being in front of a camera. Some people don't want their climbing on the internet. They don't want to feel embarrassed. They don't want to be judged. I found that even though the community is quite supportive, there is like a big divide between indoor and outdoor climbing.
Really?
Yeah, massive. Like it's huge. Like if you go onto Reddit or anything, it's just a complete mess. There was a whole thing last summer. I went away for like 4 months and I came back and like indoor climbing videos were banned from Reddit and like people were shunned, and there was a whole new subreddit created for indoor climbers, and it was just like this big rift between the community because everyone's like indoor climbing doesn't count. And I was like, yeah, I kind of get where you're coming from. Like the grades are generally not very representative indoors because it is a business. Like outdoors doesn't care about your ego. So yeah, that was a big thing. So that was definitely a challenge as well. And just how to film it best. Like a lot of stuff, old school is just like put your camera on the grounds and film from the grounds and like have like a landscape shot. So I've been messing around a little bit more with using a GoPro and a stabilizer to try and get closer action shots essentially.
Yeah.
So
what main camera are you using right now for your channel? I'm curious.
So I have way too many cameras. So I have a Lumix G80, which is like a G85 in the States, I think is their name. Which is like the baby brother of the GH5 or GH5, depending on how you pronounce it. I have a GoPro Hero 4 Black, which I bought ages ago, and then I kind of repurposed it. It doesn't work unless it's charging, so I have to charge it off the stabilizer. So that's sucks. Really ideal.
Yeah.
And it like corrupts footage like on the regular. I just don't have the bank balance for a new one. And then I now actually have a Mavic Air as well, which I get out mainly for the trail running stuff and like the backcountry skiing.
Yeah.
Mainly because it's dope. I used to have a drone. I sold the drone because it wasn't portable, and then the Mavic Air came out, and I was like, "Oh God, I have a job and I have finances now." And then I bought it, and it's I want to use it indoors in the gym, but they won't let me for like health and safety reasons.
Oh yeah.
I got
so, how are the drone laws where you are? I'm very curious. Like we won't get too much into it because I could talk about it for hours, but just like very quickly.
It's kind of like the States, like that.
Okay.
It's pretty much the same height. Ceiling is limited and line of sight. That's basically it. And like,
so
we just don't
like
have a national
area.
park thing. Yeah, we don't have a national park thing like you guys do. So there's like a lot more open land to fly it in.
Oh, that's cool.
But they're gonna introduce. I think they're gonna introduce the same registration laws as you guys have.
Oh yeah.
Where they'll have to be registered to a person.
Get ready.
You have to take someone. It'll be fine. Like I did it in the States.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. People made a big deal out of it. It was only like I think it was like $20. I didn't really care. I figured like if it shuts everybody up, just do it and be done. You know.
Yeah. I don't really see like people like you got to register a car. You got to register a motorbike. You know, your phones are registered whether you believe it or not.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a drone. Forget it. Why not?
I mean, if it falls out of the sky, you know, it could really hurt somebody. So I feel like they got to be monitoring, you know, who owns what instead of it being a free for all.
Yeah.
I don't want to stick on drones. Like I said, I could talk about it for hours. So we'll move on. Cool. So I think Ryan had a final question for your YouTube channel in general before we get into some of your specific videos.
Yeah, and something that I've been noticing is besides the running videos, you started to implement like a few review videos, and those are doing like surprisingly well. Did you expect that kind of success for the review videos, or is that
really
just random?
Didn't. No, I was like, what on earth is going on? So I like started reviewing gear for fun because I love gear. I'm like a massive gear nut. I've got like 18 cameras and like too many pairs of climbing shoes. Like I spend a lot of my money on gear, and I love gear and the tech that goes into it. And I started them for a bit of fun, and there was this website in the UK which I'm not going to plug because that's like not allowed. But basically, if you made a review and posted it on the internet, you'd get like $10 off on your next purchase.
Oh wow!
If they could use
that's
the
so
review on their site. So I just started making all these reviews. I was like, great, I'm going to get money. And then I started accumulating the vouchers so that I could buy things for free, basically.
That is that is pretty smart.
Yeah, that is smart.
Yeah, and then they stopped doing that. So I haven't made any reviews for them in a while because they wouldn't let me like bulk add my vouchers. They'd only let me do 10 at a time. So I was like, allow that.
10 at a time.
Yeah, that was like $10. No, $10 at a time, not like £10.
Oh, I got you.
Instead of I had like one time. I was at like one
cards.
point where I had like £80 of vouchers. I was just getting stuff for free. It was great.
That's cool. But you're giving them free publicity too while you're doing it, so it's kind of like they both make everybody's making money.
they have like a proper video review on their site. I get a £10 voucher, which kind of feels like an endorsement or sponsorship. So it's kind of a win-win, really.
Mm-hmm.
But then I just kind of I just like the review format. So the climbing shoes I think will always do the best because any climber is like, I don't really know how to explain it to any other sport, to be honest. It's like basketball shoes, man. Like,
yeah, it's a key element to the sport.
Yeah,
definitely.
just like always. Oh, shoes, man. Jordans, whatever, Nike. I don't know. I'm speaking out but climbing shoes are always one of those things that people just spend way too much time researching. So I was like, okay, I've got loads of shoes. Like, I can start reviewing them. But I've implemented a policy now where I don't review a product until I'm finished with it. So
that's smart.
Yeah, I didn't feel like I could give, because I was watching a lot of the reviews that the bigger channels do and the big shopping ones, and they're like, oh, we're here at Outdoor Show 2018 and these are amazing shoes, yada yada yada. And it's like, yeah, but they haven't been released and you haven't climbed in them, so you're just reading up a bunch of stats.
Yeah, just like complete bias. This way you kind of like redeem that value.
Yeah, so I was like, I'll use them for as long as the lifespan, and then I'll review them because at least I know, or at least 6 months. Basically, it's 6 months or until they're dead. I feel like I can have an accurate opinion on a shoe after 6 months of use. So I'm actually in the process of doing a review at the moment. So
awesome, yeah, we'll be on the lookout for that. But I know Adam wanted to get into talking about some more of your specific videos, just to get into some questions that he had just off the top of his head.
Yeah. So first, I want you to explain to everybody, and it might be a simple question, but I feel like I watched your videos, so I know there's more to it. So why is it important to have a climbing partner with you when you're climbing?
Oh, dude. So I actually really enjoyed that video. I honestly believe that if you have a solid climbing partner, it can literally make or break your climbing career. So basically, they are the type of person. A good climbing partner will keep you grounded. They'll keep you stoked. They give you like a lot of support. Like when you're outdoors, climbing can be quite scary, so you need someone that you both trust and that understands where your mental space is at any given moment. And yeah, like a really good climbing partner is quite hard to come by, and there are very few people that I would feel very comfortable going on trips with. And it's like any other sport where there is an element of risk, and it's just kind of, it's a trust thing. And
yeah, fair enough.
It's especially like sport climbing, like if you muck up, you're hitting the ground, and yeah, there's always going to be that trust element. But any competent climber should know how to belay and stuff. So it's just you got to have that something. So I have like, I don't want to have a new climbing partner, like it's a new girlfriend or whatever, but yeah, like he's great, and there's a big mentoring thing within the climbing community. Not many people actually talk about it, but generally, like a lot of my climbing partners have been stronger climbers than myself, and they've been climbing for many more years than I have been. And they're just kind of there to pass down knowledge that they've picked up over the years. So whether it be with training, or whether it be with how to climb efficiently outside, or how not to destroy your skin, or kind of little things that you'd either have to spend hundreds of hours in the gym figuring out for yourself, or the type of person that can kind of just pass down that knowledge to you, as you go on trips and stuff. Yeah. So when I was in the Netherlands, my good climbing partner was Maxime, who I first started creating all this content with, and he's been climbing since he was 14 or something, 13. He's 23 now, 24. And he was the one when I first went to the university wall, like he just took me under his wings and like, yeah, we're going on a trip together to France, and that was that. I was only been climbing for like 4 months. And but yeah, we ended up climbing together like 3-4 days a week for years. And yeah, it's like a big kind of mentoring, friendly kind of get a friend for life with that whole climbing.
I gotcha.
It's
yeah,
it's a cool aspect of the sport.
And that's an aspect that you kind of relate to like any type of predicament in life. Like a mentor is really key if you want like the little secrets that equate to the big issues.
Yeah.
That is really smart that you surround yourself with people who have like a little bit more knowledge, or in the future you can even let that knowledge like on somebody else, lead somebody else where you were.
Exactly. It's the sharing and acquisition of knowledge, and it's really cool. Like, it's rare to find those people that are willing to do it as well, because a lot of people are kind of just like looking out for themselves. So you know, it's really nice when you do find someone that's willing to spend that time and like teach you those things. So yeah, it's cool.
Most definitely.
Cool. And the next video or section of the video that I want to talk about is a video you made that really fascinated me, and the topic of it was the pre-training cycle assessment was the exact phrase that you used. So can you explain what that is? Because like the whole idea of that was pretty cool to me.
Yeah, I'm actually really gutted because I picked up a little bit of a finger injury before that finished.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, but basically the whole idea, because I'm a bit of a training nut and I have like a big training background from my years of swimming, so I deal really well with structured plans for my training. And the whole idea behind that video was to really take a benchmark as to where I'm at physically at like that given moment, and what weaknesses I may or may not have that need to be worked on. Mm-hmm. So I consulted with a lot of people on the Climb Harder subreddit, like the big climbing training one, and kind of comprised that test and ran the test, and I got some good results, and I was like, awesome. And then the whole idea was I'd go through a full training cycle and then retake the test in December of that year. And then basically I got ill, I got a little bit injured, and then I never managed to run the final test to like compare the results. However, I know now I'd like completely destroy them based on kind of like a current test that I did, or 2 months ago. But that was just something to put out there, because there's like a lot of information out there, and climbing is quite a new sport in terms of the science behind it. Like any other sport, baseball, football, soccer, basketball, all the like physiological, the training types, how to train XYZ, drills, yada yada yada. They're all really well developed because there's loads of money going into the sport, and you have loads of physios and sports scientists working for teams trying to optimize the training, so the knowledge is already there. Climbing isn't there yet. Like it will be in about 2 years time when it's at the Olympics. Mm-hmm. But there is still just this huge amount of unstructured knowledge just thrown out there, and that's why it kind of goes back to the mentoring thing, is that you really have to find what works for you, because there isn't a book, there aren't really that many books on like how to train efficiently, or this is how you should train, and the science is constantly changing. So I decided to run that test as my own little experiment. Basically, it was interesting. I don't regret
definitely
it.
was.
Sounds
yeah.
like it. Yeah, lot went into it.
Yeah, it's the limits of human, like the human performance aspects of like sport is quite interesting. So I don't know. I've met some people that ran the test. I don't know what their results were for the second set, but I think you could always change. You can the thing about that test though is that it's definitely variable. You can change the size of the holds and stuff. It's just a matter of being able to replicate the exact same environment again. So I may actually do it again after the summer, and just see where I'm at again, and then kind of actually have a result section. But I've been very kind of diligent with the whole logging training. I have like a book that I write everything down in, and spreadsheets.
Yeah.
I love spreadsheets, man. Who doesn't love spreadsheets? All about the spreadsheet life. So,
that's so funny.
Yeah.
Stay organized. And then there's some other videos that I just wanted to briefly touch on, and then we'll just move right along. So the Road to Ultra, you kind of mentioned that before, but what's your exact position in that?
Yeah, so I kind of hit a crossroad. I was training. I don't really know what one to use at the moment. For an ultra marathon for next year, for July of next year, which would be 108 miles. And 108? Yeah, 108. I don't know why they chose 108. It's 108 miles. It's not even the full race. The full race is like 256 miles or something.
So is it multiple days?
Well, you got to do it in under 60 hours. The fastest
Holy
guys
cow.
are kind of coming in around 30. You don't really sleep,
30.
so it's like 30 hours awake running. It is kind of crazy, but that's what I was really attracted to about the whole ultra marathon, ultra running thing. But basically, I was supposed to do like a 35-mile run this month, and then I tore the ligaments in my ankle in a climbing accident. So that kind of rendered me unable to run for 2 months. And then I hit a crossroad because I'm running a half marathon in October for arthritis research in London.
Very cool.
And like I had to make a decision as to what I was actually training for, and because I'm an uber competitive person, I decided to focus back onto the half marathon for October. Because I can always pick up the ultra running afterwards, but if I'd spend too much time training for that, then I'm not going to be fast enough to hit my goal time. So
yeah, that's rough. That's really
it was a bit of a crossroads.
You gotta watch out for yourself, man. That's any injury like that can just screw you over in the long run whenever it comes to these type of events, because that's that's enduring on the body. I can't even imagine.
Tell me. Yeah, so that's part of the reason that I want to do it anyway, is because it is just ridiculous. There is something that I find really enticing about the extreme of human capability. So I just want to see if I can do it. Like, that's basically it. I'll probably like end up crying a lot or something. I don't know. Apparently people start crying a lot and they start hallucinating.
I'm sure.
Yeah, like it's a bit crazy what happens, and you just kind of break down emotionally and physically and mentally, just like empty yourself. And I think
wow, that sounds like a rebirth. That's just like ridiculous.
Yeah, no, it must really be. Like, I'm really intrigued. I have a friend who's done a couple of ultras. I have two friends that have done ultras, so I have like a mentor again in that kind of scene. But neither of them have run something that far. So I have to see. I mean, like, I always aim really, really big, and if I fall short, then I've generally done okay. So we'll have to see it. Just like, I'm playing it by ear. Like, I'm telling myself I'm doing it, so I train like I am. But obviously life may have other plans. There's like literally at the very end of my law school first year, and I'll have exams and stuff, so it's going to be a real balance to balance YouTube, law school, ultramarathon, climbing, filming for YouTube, and like trying to have a normal social life of a 23-year-old. So it's going to be really a rough year, I think. Yeah,
it'll be sure. Fun. It's going to be fun regardless, but it's going to be rough. I don't argue that. Something that I wanted to talk about just before we get into the concluding points of the interview. I'm sure with climbing a lot of risk is involved, especially when you're out in the elements and nature. Have you ever had any like close calls, any risks whenever you're out there climbing?
Had one.
Just one. Wow, that's fortunate.
Yeah, the whole thing is you've got to be really diligent with what you're doing, and like try and minimize any potential risk that you take. My one incident that I look back on now and laugh at a lot was I was trad climbing in Arizona somewhere. Where was I? It doesn't matter. Paradise Forks. That's what it was.
Okay, cool.
And so for those that don't know, like, trad climbing is you're placing little pieces of protection like into cracks in the rock. So it's a bit different to bouldering, and it is very different to bouldering. It's a bit different to sport climbing. Like, it's the same kind of height, but there's no bolts in the rock. So when we sport climb, there's like a nice 10-inch bolt that's been drilled in and glued into the rock, and you can fall on those all day, every day, and nothing will ever happen. But trad climbing, you're placing these little pieces into the rock, and it's really on you to make sure that you've placed them correctly, because if you haven't placed them correctly, then they won't catch you when you fall. And
that's trippy.
Yeah, and I was trad climbing, and I was kind of getting towards the end of my route, and it was this piece that I needed to place to essentially would stop me hitting the ground if I fell on the top section. And I dropped it into the waterfall. Like, I just dropped it somewhere on the chat. It's definitely on my Instagram. And there's just this state of confusion as I look around, like, what am I supposed to do now?
I would love
I was panicking internally. And I was like, oh God, it's like a 25-foot run out to the top of this climb now, and I have nothing like to put into this little
How'd you do it? Did you end up doing it? You just did it. Wow.
I didn't trust my gear placements to rappel, to like lower off the climb. So I was like, I'm better off just like trying to get to the top. Because if I fall, it's going to be the same situation as if I want to lower off it.
Wow. So, how do you overcome like the fear associated with like the risk? Like, that is some immense risk involved with what you do. How do you like how do you stay away from like the fearfulness of it?
It's a really good question. I don't think very few people ever stop feeling the fear. Like, I think it's always there. It's a very natural thing to feel. in this sport. Like, you are going to be... I still get scared. Like, a couple of weeks ago, I was sport climbing. I really struggled mentally for about a good 10 minutes while I was on this climb. Even though I knew I was perfectly safe. And I was just like, oh, I hadn't sport climbed in a while. And I was like, okay, I need to get... It's called a lead head. You need to get, like, your lead head on. Because it is an unnatural position for us to be in as, like, people. But then you kind of just take a couple of deep breaths and just realize that you're more than capable of doing what you need to do, and just go from there, and just kind of one foot in front of the other a little bit. And I think, I don't think I take as much risk as some people do.
Yeah,
there are a lot of climbers out there that take a lot of big risks with stuff that I just wouldn't like touch.
Oh, I don't blame you, man. That's intense.
It's crazy. It really is like a very individual thing, though. As in, I can't tell someone that they're taking too much risk. Basically, like, it's for them to decide. Like, it doesn't affect me what they do.
I respect that, definitely.
You know, it's just like everyone has their own mental and physical limits, and like, I can't really dictate to someone what theirs should be the same way they can't tell me what mine are.
So in other words, like, the fear creates cautiousness in you, and like with what you do, cautiousness is a great way to approach like any situation that you might find yourself in, as far as like rock climbing.
You've always, I think, prepare for the worst and expect the best is definitely like the mantra to live by.
Words to live by, definitely.
Yeah, I think that's
wow. Yeah. We just got into some real talk, but I wanna kind of stray away from that as we like get into the end of the conversation. I want to leave people feeling uplifted and a little happy. We're just kind of going into a deep dark hole, right? It's
the best feeling in the world. You feel so alive in those moments. That's what I'm gonna say. It's great. You chase.
Okay, there we go. We 180 that situation real quick. Yeah. So something else that I wanted to ask, just out of curiosity more than anything, how was your experience coming to America?
Dude, I loved it. I had like the time. I cried. I've never cried leaving anywhere. I like nearly missed my flight. Legit. I was like, I just don't want to leave. So I didn't know how good we had it. Wow.
Yeah, wow.
Dude, I'd been to the States before. Like, my parents loved traveling to the States, and you know, grew up, and we used to go to like Florida, and
true.
Like a load of states actually. It's kind of ridiculous, but
that's wild.
Yeah, that 6 months was like the craziest best 6 months of my life. And I miss it like every day. It's like how I would summarize it. I met.
Wow. Do you see yourself living here like one day?
Dude, I know this is gonna go on the internet. I asked like so many people to marry me while I was in the States. Like, I was like, dude, let's get married. There was this one girl. She's like American, British, German, and I was like, this is perfect.
This is
5 passports between us.
Wow.
And no, it's an interesting one. It's an interesting one. So, I don't know if I'd I don't know, your health, I don't know if you've watched the other ones. I have like arthritis, and like the whole health system in the States kind of scares me a little bit.
Yeah. That's so true.
And yeah, like way too real. I'm not going to get into that debate, but like my condition basically doesn't really lend well to later on life. So I love the States. I love the land. I love the people. I'd probably move to Canada though.
Oh yeah, that's a good option still. Like I don't.
It's like a left-wing version of America with socialized healthcare, and it's cool. I don't know.
Yeah.
I know. I used to dream of moving to Colorado. Like that was my big thing. Was like I want to go live in Colorado.
Dude, same. It's so nice there. I love Colorado.
Beautiful. It's so beautiful. You guys have it way too lucky, and everyone has a car, and all these kids live in houses. And you have such good Mexican food, man. I miss the Mexican food. I was back last summer, and I was in San Diego for a while, and it was just the craziest summer of my life. It was my friend's 21st, and it was 22nd. I don't even know anymore. How old are we? And it was like crazy. Yeah, I went back. That's how much I missed it. I literally bought a plane ticket. I had my final university exam. I went back in the evening, and then the next morning I was on a flight to Vegas. My friend was picking me up from Vegas, and I spent like 6 weeks in the States. And I got friends for life out there. So that's and I was in like San Luis Obispo for Thanksgiving and stuff on the coast.
Oh wow, that's not too far from us actually either. It's like beautiful. 2.5 hours from us.
Yeah, I love Americans. It's not too far from us. It's 2.5 hours. Yeah, it's crazy distances, man. Crazy distances. But yeah, I love the States. Sorry, that was a bit of a ramble.
No, it's awesome to hear.
I loved it, man.
Great to hear.
So you're saying if we figure out our healthcare situation, there's a chance.
Dude, yeah, 100%. Also, not to like, American girls are really interesting. Maybe it was the college environment. I don't know. It was a bit weird. It was weird. They're quite intense. Like, I think Americans in general are quite intense. I'm also intense, so I guess that worked out really well.
I'm sure you did.
But yeah, they really, I think especially like, it was a big thing to see American college life. Like, that was the big thing, because like we grew up a lot seeing films or like, you know, oh man, like Blue Mountain State and like American Pie and like all this kind of representation of American culture and like
notions.
University. Yeah, and it was really interesting to see that it's it actually kind of happens like that. So
low key, definitely.
Seriously, like crazy. Also, cops. What's that all about? Like, that was really interesting. And driving and like it was
driving.
Crazy.
Did you get your license out here? Were you allowed to drive?
Dude,
here?
I already had a license. I've got an Arizona state ID, which is
no, you
hilarious.
Don't.
Yeah, I have.
That's
I have
so awesome.
Arizona. It's so bad. I don't know if I should have shown that because it's probably got a number or something that I shouldn't show away.
You showed it to the camera?
Yeah.
Basically, blur that out.
Yeah, we'll blur it out for you, man.
Basically, they wouldn't accept my passport anywhere in Arizona, so I had to get an Arizona state ID. So turns out no one's actually lying about the DMV. It really is a mess. The DMV is.
It's awful, man.
It's so bad. They lost the thing, and then I didn't have an ID, and then I had to carry around like I was like, what on earth is this all about?
That's crazy. Literally every DMV experience to date. Like,
yeah, no one
that's
pretty
accurate.
has a good DMV experience, that's for sure.
Someone ordered a pizza to the DMV. I thought
if you're gonna be there for hours, man, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize people actually did that though. Like,
Don't you love America?
You read it on the internet, but yeah, I mean, America #1 food. Dude, I gained like 20 pounds when I went to the States.
Oh my God.
I know. I don't know.
It's naturally gonna happen when you're in America.
Too much food, man. Too much good food, I should say.
Mexican and burgers and like, I got injured. That was the main thing. Like, I got injured while I was out in the States, so I just ended up drinking and eating. It was great. Like, I really loved it.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that. But we're getting to the end of the interview here, and I just have like a few rapid fire questions that I like to do at the very end. So these are just like whatever comes to your mind in the moment, quick responses, and then we'll just kind of close out from there. Sound good?
Perfect.
Sweet. So the first one, what are some of your like big hobbies outside of climbing and running?
Snap. Big hobbies outside. Well, YouTube.
There you go.
I used to play,
default.
YouTube is a hobby. I used to. Well, I'm getting back. I used to play sax and photography, which I'm trying to get back into. But like nice. Those climbing and running takes up a lot of time, man. Like a lot of time.
Oh, I'm sure. Definitely.
Gotcha. Cool. And then you kind of already mentioned a ton, but I just want like the biggest one that you feel is the difference between the UK and the USA.
The biggest difference.
And you can't say health insurance.
Damn it. Biggest difference. I think the main thing is that that is such a big. Well, apart from the obvious difference in terms of land, but I think you guys do really well with, or have been doing really well with, like protection of land and the national park system. I think that's like a really big thing, and there's definitely a bigger vibe of outdoor recreational activities in the States and like getting people outside. I think that's really cool, and like maybe it was just where I was, but like I definitely got the impression of that. Also, you guys can't handle drink as well as we can.
Oh, shots fired.
No,
Jeez.
Seriously, so many people just dying on their 21st birthdays. Right. Next
yeah,
question.
Isn't your drinking age younger though? So you have more experience legally?
Yeah, ours is 18, but like...
See, you got 3 years on us.
Yeah, no, but a lot of people here are drinking from like 14, so...
Oh my God.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it was so entertaining. I have a story, I'll share it afterwards because I don't want to ruin your rapid fire.
Alright, well, this is the last one, so you're good. So have you ever had thoughts about being on Ninja Warrior or any kind of show like that?
Yes, I have. Yes. Literally. I would like to one day. There's like this running joke in the climbing community that the British bouldering team every single one of them seems to be ending up on Ninja Warrior at the moment. So I would definitely not be opposed to doing it. My really good friend did the Dutch version. So
oh, nice.
Yeah, we'll see.
How did he do? I'm curious. Like, is it harder than just doing the normal rock climbing stuff?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of coordination stuff in there, but I think climbing is becoming a little bit more like parkour. So yeah, apparently it is deceptively difficult, but the climbers seem to do quite well at it. So
yeah, that one with the wall, that one's always the one that trips me out. I don't know how they do it, running up that like vertical wall.
Oh, I know.
You gotta live vertically, dude.
Live vertically, man.
That's funny.
Hey, so what was that thing that you were just gonna say? Before the last rapid fire?
the drinking thing. I celebrated my 21st in the States, right? And I went out there with my really good friend who also his birthday is like 2 days before mine. So we were living in dorms together, and we were both celebrating our 21st, and it's like September in Arizona, so all the kids are back, and like it's crazy time. So we drive down to Walmart, as one does, to get cheap alcohol on our birthday, and I bought like $180 worth of alcohol, and I go to the cashier, and she just looks at me, and there's just the two of us, and we have like 5 crates and like a bottle of Grey Goose and a bottle of gin and a bottle of tequila and stuff, and she just literally gives us like the dirtiest possible look. And I just look at her and I go, oh yeah, no, this is just for the two of us. And then she just like flips out. She like calls security over. They're like, buying alcohol for minors, yada yada yada. Whatever, man. Americans.
I know, that's overkill for sure. That's a good note to end on. And we'll definitely have to have you back, Max, because you are just like, you're so funny to talk to and just like a great entertainment, man. So I'm sure everybody's gonna want to hear more.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh god. That's a good start.
I can't wait.
Thank you very much for having me though. Like it was
oh, no problem.
I really enjoyed it. Like I was a bit nervous, not gonna lie. I had a little beer before coming on. So didn't know what to expect. I was like, oh,
yeah, we're pretty cool.
Hey,
we like to have a good time.
Yeah, we try.
You guys I like the format, so I think you guys are gonna do well.
Thanks,
man. We appreciate that. Anything you want to plug last minute? People go check you out.
Just come if you're like interested in the whole climbing thing and like the running or whatever. Just come check out the channel and drop a comment. If you got, I love people asking questions. I find that the best thing. So if you have any questions, just drop one. And mainly just have a great day, I guess.
Thank you.
Plug.
Yeah,
everybody.
Yeah, we're just starting our day for the most part. It's like 11:30 a.m. here.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, it's like 8 o'clock there.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely. We'll leave all your links down in the description. We'll everybody's got to go check out Max now. They got to live vertically. But yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in for episode 13 of Boast Cast. This is Ryan and Adam signing off. See you next time.